Hey guys, I'm Bonnie and I blog at bonnieandblythe.com about intentional motherhood, personal style, and sewing. Today I'm showing you the next step in our series of infinite A-line how-to videos. How to start the bodice of this little girl's dress and add the ruffles on view D, which seems to be everybody's favorite view. Are you ready to do it? Let's go!
Once our fabric is cut out, we'll need to use pieces 2, 3, and 6 for this portion of the dress. Piece 2 is the exterior bodice piece with an allowance for the ruffle. Piece 3 is the bodice lining, and piece 6 is the ruffle. You should have 2 pieces of fabric cut out of each pattern piece. We'll first be working with the ruffle piece, so you can set aside pieces 2 and 3 for now. Go ahead and unfold one ruffle piece and locate the straight edge of the ruffle. Our first step is to hem this edge. I like to use my serger to first finish the raw edge and then fold it under 1/4 inch and stitch down. Once that's done, run 2 basting stitches along the curved edge of the ruffle piece to gather it later. Next, take pieces 2 and 3 and unfold them, stacking each front piece on top of the corresponding back with right sides together, and then stitch all 4 shoulder seams. Don't forget to press the seam allowances open once you've stitched your shoulder seams. Next, determine which is your exterior bodice piece by comparing the widths of each piece. The main bodice is slightly wider than the lining. Take the main bodice piece and fold it in half lengthwise. Fold the pattern piece along the dotted cut line and lay this piece over your fabric. Mark your fabric along the cut line with a water-soluble marker or tailor's chalk. Do this on both sides. Then unfold your bodice piece and carefully cut through the marked lines on both sides. Open up the center piece of the bodice and lay it right side up. Now take a ruffle piece and gather it along the curved edge. You can see here on my piece that the straight edge is hemmed and the curved edge is starting to gather due to my basting stitches. Now I'm going to grab 2 tails from the end of my basting stitches. I can grab either the bobbin threads or the needle threads, but not both. Then I'll pull these threads taut while pushing the fabric away from my hand and gathering it. I keep gathering until this edge of the ruffle is roughly the same length as the raw edge of my bodice that was just cut. At this point, you can pin the short edges of your ruffle to the ends of the bodice piece and then distribute your gathering so that the ruffle fits the bodice perfectly, and pin the rest of the length. Once this is done, repeat with the other ruffle and opposite side of the bodice, and then baste each ruffle to the bodice. Once the basting is done, add the side bodice piece, the one that was cut off from the center, to this edge by laying it on top of the ruffle with its right side touching the wrong side of the ruffle. Stitch all 3 layers together and repeat with the second ruffle on the other side. This is what it will look like when done. Be sure to press the seam allowances toward the center of the bodice. This will help the ruffles lie flat. Now it's time to add the lining. Lay your main bodice piece flat with the front of the bodice closest to you. Lay your lining piece on top of this, also with the front of the lining closest to you and right sides touching. To pin the 2 pieces together, begin by matching up the shoulder seams and pinning those together, and then continue pinning around the entire neckline. Now we need to stitch the neckline by sewing all the way around this opening. After stitching, but before turning right side out, be sure to clip the curves of your neckline so that it will lie flat. Now turn the bodice right side out and press the neckline well. A quick note, if you won't be adding sleeves to this bodice, then stop here and use the technique on page 13 of the pattern instructions to fully line the bodice. Otherwise, continue sewing your side seams. Separate the main bodice from the lining and make sure they're each lined up right sides together. Then line up each of the 4 side seams and stitch each of them together and press your seam allowances open. Turn your bodice right side out again and voila, your bodice is done and ready to have sleeves attached to it. An optional final step is to baste the bottom of the main bodice and lining together all the way around the waist. This will make it much easier to add the skirt in the next step.
And that's it. Please give me a thumbs up below if you like this video and subscribe to my channel to get updates on all the latest tips and tutorials. Thanks so much for watching this installment of the Infinite A-Line how-to videos, and we'll see you later.